We have a quorum, I can see. Proof of notification.
Was properly notified.
Want to tell us how?
So, So we notified through the normal means through MIS, and then we also posted in the public library, city hall, and the courthouse. So we
So
had plenty of public notification.
I don't think we need a motion on this, but I'm going to ask, what? Let me say this. I want to ask maybe to be on the agenda of the county board, since I don't like the fact that we had a quorum here last week and the fact that we no longer post paper, we couldn't have a meeting. And I think we should not be totally reliant on technology, especially when we know we're having meetings. Do you guys, I know that's not on the agenda, but I just think we should keep posting it with paper. What do you think? What? Okay, well, I'll put that to Dave Turk. Yeah. No, they didn't because of the problems with the internet. They couldn't get
But
it.
even the county website was down. I thought that was still up.
Well, MIS didn't get it posted.
When you get posted, nobody's got it.
Oh, okay.
No, it's on a date.
Yeah, I thought email was up that day, but I guess it wasn't. So when we were ready to start, Derek came in and said it's not on the website.
I thought we've had this question though before, like when it's a regularly scheduled meeting every month, you know, and that's been on the calendar on the website, like, do you have to officially?
I went to
Post
the
the
same thing,
agenda or
but
not?
Derek was.
Well,
And
I think, yeah, I think Chad is right. You should send it to rules and we can
Yeah.
look at that.
yeah, they were pretty strong and we weren't even supposed to talk to each other. So anyway, we're talking today. Okay. We have 11-point agenda. Do I have a motion to approve the agenda? Chad moves. Do I have Barb seconds? All in favor signify by saying aye. And our last official meeting was August 14th. And everybody looked at the minutes, I assume. I have the paper copy and it's on here too. Any additions or corrections to that? Okay, all in favor of the minutes from August 14th, signify by saying aye. Aye. Do I have to have a motion? I think I'll declare that it, okay, I'll declare as read. Okay. All right. Extension, and I think you gave us some handouts. So Adam, we have quite a few serious things to talk about, and we want to welcome Sheena back again.
So to start, I'm gonna turn it over to Sheena just to give a food wise report. And you guys should have, one of the handouts is, says Community Conversations, Richland County. She'll be giving this kind of the work or the fact sheet she'll be working off of today.
And I am just choosing of the probably too many files I have open, so apologies on that. I'm going to share screen. I have sharing rights, correct?
Yep.
Yes.
Try this first here. Oh. Well,
Do you need some help?
no, this is an operator error in terms of just, I don't know, for some reason it's not showing up when I'm pulling it up, but I'll find it. I apologize.
No
I don't
problem.
use WebEx very often. And it's not showing up in my, there it is. There it is. Okay. All right. So as you all know, FoodWise is a SNAP funded entity out of Extension. We work with audiences who have limited income and are SNAP eligible. And we also work with the communities and community partners to what you might say help make the healthy choice the easy choice. So making policy, system, and environment changes to help support the healthy choice in our communities, and access to healthy food and exercise. And during the pandemic, this kind of conversation started, especially in my area, around health equity. Obviously, that's been like sort of central kind of focus of FoodWise for a few years now, especially once there was that declaration of racism as a public health crisis in the state of Wisconsin. So we have kind of made formal steps towards really closing those gaps, or what can we do, or how can we change what we're doing to better meet needs of communities who are at risk for health inequities. So as a result, the state of Wisconsin, FoodWise, partnered with UW Population Health Institute to do what we called community conversations. Those were focus groups across the entire state to better understand access of healthy food or food among Hmong, Somali, Latinx, Black, and African communities in Wisconsin. Those conversations were working towards understanding factors in the community that facilitate food security and access to healthy foods and physical activity, to better understand the barriers to food security and access to healthy foods, and then also physical activity for the community. And then it's also to sort of elicit these community-based suggestions or even conversations within communities and community partners about how we can better improve food security and healthy access, or access to healthy food and physical activity. This report that I'm going to give, the reason why I'm giving it today is, well, multifaceted. So these conversations happened a year ago, almost, from the summer. And I worked pretty hard to kind of raise the voice. You all know we're a rural community, and sometimes because of our rurality, just sheer less numbers, there tends to be sort of less resources, I think, that come down. And so I've worked pretty hard to raise the voice of our 3-county area and sort of the need for to have this conversation. So let's see here. So this, yeah, so we're going to be, I thought I would present it to you today, not only for you to understand that this is happening, or did happen, and it's happening in the community, but also because there were some things that surfaced out of the focus group, or what we're calling community conversations, that I thought would be useful, and also just if you thought there were key partners to share as well. So I just wanted to give a quick overview of the project roadmap. So this was essentially the process that the state followed for creating these community conversations. So they really did do their homework to try to make sure that they were informed by the community, or co-created with communities as well. And we're at the dissemination of results back to community and partners stage, and it's kind of taken me a little bit of a while to get to all the partners I would like to. And then I just wanted to do a really quick demographics. So this is where these conversations happened across the state. And in general, they focused on areas where there were significant increases in a population. But again, because you might say that, you know, me and another community partner, Community Hunger Solutions, some of you may have heard Jeanette Burlingame, but she and I had been working towards sort of raising the voice of the Latinx community in our area, especially during the pandemic. And I skipped a couple of slides. I do have sort of detailed notes along with the slides that I printed last week, and I didn't hand them out because we Good. And then, of course, this week I'm not in person. I had kind of a minor trauma with my dogs this morning that I had to take care of. And so you have sort of the one pager that compares local results to sort of state results with communities. But there is sort of a detailed one, and they're already printed, but they're with me, so I can bring them next time. The conversation, again, I said, it happened last summer. And there was 5 Latinx participants, 4 women and 1 man. And they ranged in the age of from 30 to 60 years old. And it happened at the Richland Center Community Center. And as far as the overall results, I think most of us will probably not be fully surprised by some of the comments because I think all of Richland County, experiences sort of that food desert that happens in the county. But in terms of grocery stores and shopping at grocery stores, they talked about Walmart as being the only game in town. So in the notes, it says that it's a 5-minute walk from downtown. I think that might have been a gap in translation because it's not. So I'm guessing they meant 5-minute drive from downtown. So they felt like Walmart was easily accessible. However, they felt like in order to really get the ethnic foods that they would really want for their meals, they have to drive an hour once or twice a month to Madison, shop at Woodman's, where they have a Central American section, things that they couldn't get access to at Walmart. The selection was not only a problem with Walmart, but they also had an interesting observation. I'm not sure if you folks have noticed this. And maybe it's changed since then, because again, this was a year ago. But they said that the ethnic food aisles had been removed and the ethnic food had sort of been integrated into the entire store. And for them, I guess there was some conversation that was had about whether or not that practice was racist, or some people, they kind of debated back and forth about sort of, but either way, it was definitely impactful on how they shopped. All participants wanted more grocery stores, or grocery choices, I should say, in Richland Center. There are 2 Latin, Hispanic grocery stores. But they did make that comment. They felt like there wasn't a lot of grocery stores in Richland Center. They really seem to want to be able to shop with a strong local based economy. So they had that in mind. They felt like Walmart brings things, this is a quote, Walmart brings things from outside and money leaves the community, that they would far prefer to buy at grocery stores that buy from local farmers and create sort of a local circle where money stays in the local economy. They talked about in this slide farmers markets, but as I read through the notes, I think the folks at the state might, again, have not understood farmers markets as much as more farm stands. So they find the Latinx and Hispanic communities actually across the state seem to have the best personal connections with local farmers and farmer markets. In Vernon County and Richland County, they talked a lot about the Amish and how they've developed relationships with Amish, and how even a woman mentioned that, there's a farmer who literally might grow specific things for them or set items aside that they know that she might want. They also expressed an interest or desire to buy whole animals, but don't have the freezer equipment to store it. They talked about buying meat parts at fairs, and I wasn't altogether sure what that was meant in that focus group, but that they would rather purchase whole animals. Another thing that I thought was just a really sort of impactful feedback. And this quote is up on the slide. It says, "It is oh, it's like I have to plug in my computer. Hold on. Whoa." There we go. So you probably had time to read it while I stepped away. So I'll go ahead and skip that. But several individuals said that they had moved to Richland Center to be part of a larger Latin American community. And they felt comforted by being able to be served at the bank by other Latin Americans, or going to the local grocery store that they felt might be owned by Latin Americans. But despite the increasing Latinx community here, they felt like there was a shared sense that Richland Center was a dying community, that there had been a lot of store closings. They mentioned J.C. Penney's, which closed a while ago in my recollection. They also mentioned the local grocery store that closed down a little while ago. I think it was IGA, if I remember correctly, or something like that. And they remembered the parks being filled with children playing and adults relaxing, but they felt like they were relatively empty now. They also made a reference that they felt like there are events available for them. But because of recent talks on immigration rights, they felt like they maybe shouldn't attend. They felt like it was hard to connect. Several people mentioned that they pretty much can see people at the supermarket or church, but they didn't feel like they had a way to sort of meet or collaborate or come together. The only church with a Spanish mass they mentioned is about a 20-minute drive away. They also knew that there were really great community resources available to them, but not always sure how to access them. For example, they know that there's organizations that can help them navigate their immigration issues, such as getting transportation to Milwaukee for hearings. But they felt like they had few details about that, and that knowledge about that local activity was mainly word of mouth. The participants felt that the community was growing, but not necessarily growing together, and that there was a huge need for some sort of communication network for the Latinx and Hispanic community, and especially for them. In terms of healthy eating and preferred foods, they felt like it was really important and critical to promote healthy eating and exercise, especially for children. And they actually mentioned that this is a really big issue even now in Mexico. So this is not unique to Richland or United States. But they mentioned that Mexico is actually the highest in high blood pressure, diabetes, anxiety, and stress. So they recognize that as a need across the board. And all participants had examples of how eating in the United States was different than eating at home. They weren't as used to using or utilizing canned and frozen vegetables. So that was something that they've had to it was entirely new to them. They've had to sort of adjust how they eat their food or prepare their food. They're really a lot more used to eating, food from the soil, vegetables from the soil. They had some concerns about really highly processed products and the impact of those foods on health in the long term. There was a quote, "The products over here are very clean, very neat and everything, but I don't know how natural they are," right? So there was a lot of comments around, like in Vernon County too, they talked about how the produce sort of lasts longer than maybe it should on the shelves. Everyone agreed that they needed to have more options or strategies around eating healthy and not eating junk food. They talked about, for their community, maybe planting small gardens, finding good vegetables and maybe adapting and freezing them. And then also buying at the Mexican store in Madison. But they mentioned that in the US here, you're in a rush and we live here. You have to be creative. I cook at night because I work really early in the morning. And I think, again, that we can kind of in this culture empathize with that sort of rush culture. In terms of physical activity, there were some really interesting discussions that went on there as well. They talked about how they exercise with their children a lot. So this was similar across the state, that the Latinx community really liked to exercise as a family, go for walks or bike rides. And then one participant had mentioned that they went twice a week with their daughter to the pool at Simon's. I'm guessing that's where that was, the indoor pool. And there was a lot of excitement about that because there was participants who actually didn't even know that that existed. So they were really excited about the prospect of having swimming lessons for their kiddos. But there is this cultural sort of concern that was mentioned, that some could be concerned about their kiddos getting sick from being wet. So there might be some really interesting opportunities for education on that piece or on that end in terms of cultural sort of specifications. And there was a general excitement about the gym as well once they kind of were talking about it. But there was also concerns that it would all be in English and that would be a huge barrier. One participant said it wasn't just difficult to go where people didn't speak Spanish, but that it felt shameful. They had mentioned that many times she didn't want to go somewhere for fear that people wouldn't speak Spanish. They did agree that there's beautiful places to walk in the community, especially in the nice weather, and talked about how they should be taking advantage of it while the weather is nice. And so, so those are kind of that's like the overview. I have another slide of considerations for the whole county. But I think for me, well, I guess for me, in terms of next steps with FoodWise, we are working towards hiring a bilingual FoodWise educator. So that's our first step, who will be based out of Richland County. But a big thing that I think there's some really great opportunity for building community. And that's sort of a big goal I have in our 3-county area for this person. But in terms of this community, there were some really great considerations to consider, thinking about whether or not there could be more small food grocery stores, or maybe it's not even that, because I know that there's a couple downtown, but maybe it's more helping those folks let other people know that they're there, and getting the word out. Thinking about working with Walmart to recreate that separate ethnic food aisle, if that's something that is easier for them to navigate. Opportunities to advertise the indoor exercise options in Spanish. And then connecting the gyms and explore ways that they can remove those cultural barriers that they talked about. And then also, how can a Latinx sort of resource network be supported in our community? So you can read the full report, which includes the statewide results across the state, and I can share that link later. Other than that, Are there any questions?
Anybody have questions? And it was very good. When are you advertising now for the bilingual FoodWise person? I'm not quite sure.
We're not there yet. And Adam can he's the next one that should be hearing in the phone tree, I'm going to call it, in UW. And then he will give me the word to be able to start advertising.
Okay,
So just kind of why that got delayed again is within the state budget when it was finalized, there was the 4% increase, and since FoodWise is all off a federal grant, they had anticipated the 4% increase, but they hadn't anticipated the 4% increase starting in July. Normally it was started in January. So they put a hold on all new hires within FoodWise to figure out where they would be financially. And then they reselected a few high priority positions to move forward before the January deadline. And so we're one of the high priorities that's getting approval now to move forward before waiting till January 1st. So that's good news for us that we're considered
Yeah.
a high priority position.
yeah, that 4% raise thing's been a problem across the board.
Yeah, it's not
Yeah,
reflective of anything here at the county. It's just how the state has to budget with that grant.
okay, Sheena, we're gonna move on. I have one person that has a short time span here, but we got a couple things we have to get done before you leave, so.
Yeah, so the next one shouldn't be too bad.
What? Okay, well, we'll keep moving, we'll see. Okay, so, I think the agriculture educator thing, we really need to go over and,
So as many of you, well, you should have all gotten an email from me with the resignation letter from Carolyn Idy. Carolyn, obviously still with Extension. She's just serving a much bigger set of 2 counties. She's now serving 2 states. So
He highlights the arrangement that we're working with. I don't think I think it might quit. Is it red? It's red.
So she's piloting a program as the small ruminant outreach specialist for both Wisconsin and Iowa. And with that opening and that vacancy, Extension has gone to a different staffing model from the single county-based type educator. We were kind of already there because we were already sharing with another county. But what I gave you is this handout that says Agriculture Institute staffing. This was put together about a year ago as more counties were transitioning to this model. And we've been kind of transitioning the model as vacancies come open. So the one thing I will tell you is this explains the model. I do not know what that actual sharing will look like for Richland and Crawford County as of yet, as we find other counties to partner with to make the regional model a reality here.
how many will be in the region, you don't know?
So in general, there are 3 to 5 counties. So you might ask, well, why did we decide to go to a regional model instead of where we were at before, right? So there's kind of 2 things that happened. As we look at the disbursement of FTE amongst the university itself, Extension, especially in the ag side, was getting pulled in 2 different directions. We have the counties who love their individual educators. We all enjoy that. The other thing is they had the industry side of it saying, hey, we want more supports for our industries beyond just campus support. We want some outreach educators. We want to be able to have more focused people working with our industries side by side. So during the pandemic, the Ag Institute started looking at different model structures to try to bridge both needs at the same time. One thing that they were finding out that
When you say ag industry, you're not just talking, you're talking about like Shrivers and those, as
So-
well as the Capo farms, or what do you mean? by that?
so industry groups might be like the dairy producers of Wisconsin, the Cranberry Growers Association, the Corn Growers Association, Soybean Growers Association, Wisconsin Pork Association, Beef Council. So each different ag industry has the canned vegetable growers. They'll have these different groups, and they wanted more connection to extension for their grower meetings. They're more focused programming or for their industry specifically to help grow and be better connected to the research that's being provided. And so they actually started lobbying for some extra money to be put into Madison, into extension. So I think about 2 years ago, there was about $1 million of base funds in the last budget that was specifically designed for statewide outreach. That couldn't be county educators. It was actually worded in there. So with that, they were trying to figure out how do we mesh these together so we can get the biggest impact with the dollars we have for local educators and this new need for these outreach specialists. So they came up with a model of these regional educators and outreach specialists. In short, the regional educators are really going to focus on either dairy production, livestock production, or crop production, crops and soils production. Be assigned to 3 to 5 counties. The counties would then in turn share the cost of that FTE. And then so the regional educators are really still going to, they're providing the actual direct programming locally within those 3 counties. It won't be as broad of a capture as we used to have, right? When I was the ag agent here, right? Every single question that came in was my responsibility. I figured out that was the connector. Now they're broadening, they're shrinking down the focus of that person, but expanding the geography. And as we shrink down their focus, right, we still need opportunities to get those questions answered beyond that person. And that's where these outreach specialists come into play. Not only are they connecting with the industry, but they're also providing statewide programming. So the outreach specialists just have educational responsibilities, unlike the campus-based specialists where they used to do research, teach classes, and then try to get an extension program out in the state. These outreach specialists are doing extension programming all over the state, and they're no longer housed at a UW campus anymore.
So they're not a county based.
So they're not county based.
This regional and
Oh.
would be working with the salary.
Correct.
Okay.
So for example, we have a statewide outreach specialist on campus right now. So Jeff Morris is a swine outreach specialist for the state of Wisconsin, and his office is actually located here in Richland County. So at the time this is printed, the outreach specialist, we were 4 farm management, 2 livestock, emerging crops, water quality specialist, cranberries, horticulture, and master gardener. I can let you guys look over this. Essentially though, what I need from you guys is, this is a quick overview of where the staff model is going. I can't tell you what counties are going to be in our 3 to 5 grouping. I can tell you the push is to have a crops and soils educator first, figuring that would have the largest impact as we have more ag production on the ground than we do in animal agriculture, even though most of our sales right now are from the dairy industry, but the thought process is even dairy farms grow crops, right? So it would be most likely looking at doing a regional crops and soils educator first. And then I'd like to expand probably into a livestock educator as well. If we can make it work within the budgets. But from what I need from you guys is just I guess the question for you is, with this new model proposal, are you willing to explore with us and figure out where that could go for the county moving forward? Or any questions about the model or how things might change or look? I can answer those questions as well.
Question? Yeah, go ahead, Barb.
A specific,
Can't hear you.
a specific entity needed help with, master gardener, say. Is the response going to be, what? Will the response be by email,
So the initial responses for master gardeners right now is via technology. Um, those responses are coming back usually in a couple of days. So within the master gardener system right now, because that one's a little bit different even than the ag educator part, there's like a ask a gardener section. So there we can either have the individuals fill that out and submit it, or we have support staff will help submit the questions. And then in the backside of that, Extension has a few employees that are hired that can either directly answer the question or get them in contact with a specialist who does know the answer to that. And then what those steps need to be taken after that's determined based on the question. And, if it's just hey, can you identify this bug? That's one thing. If it's, a more in-depth production type thing, then obviously it'd be more than just a quick email back. So,
So if you have a question like that, that's not crop or whatever, do you call, will we be promoting in the community to call your extension office and they will tell you where to make that connection?
yep, or the educator might be able to make the connection themselves too. So they're working on, so right now they have a process where the offices right now internally can send in the questions and we'll get responses back, even if you don't have somebody in that specific situation. They're trying to make that more open to the public for questions. The reality is I hope with those two educators between them too, most of the questions can get answered with somebody that they can meet with or physically see in a relatively short amount of time.
And since we'll be with a regional, will we have less impact with the salary because of be sharing with more counties than we were
Right.
before?
Right.
So our budget will go down.
So if we have two educators, then you're sharing with three each, it
Oh,
may
and
go
then
up,
too.
but yeah, so ideally we would, like I said, I want to try to find for sure crops and soils educator. So if it's 3 to 5 counties, if it's 3 counties, you share the FTE 3 ways. If it's 5 counties, share the FTE 5 ways, right? And so just finding that mix, I'm trying to keep it to really the same as what we're contributing right now. Right now, Richland County is contributing a half FTE right now. So if it ends up just being one educator that we can
Who's
find.
Working, I mean, how fast, is this gonna be a year or two, or how fast?
No, so I hope to have, um, I have some ideas and we're working through some ideas where we might look for some county sharing. I hope to have a proposal for you guys, definitely before the first of the year. Hopefully next committee meeting, I have an idea what at least the regional crops educator might look like. I don't want to drag it out, Linda. I really
Yeah,
don't.
I mean, I just think it'll show like we're not really responding to the communities if we don't do something.
Yeah. No, I'm actually in conversations with the institute director right now on where some potential alignments could be happening. Within Area 13, La Crosse is vacant. Of course, Crawford and Richland are now vacant. Vernon County has been for over a year in a regional model already with Sauk and Juneau counties. So we're just trying to figure out what's going to be the best model for the area moving forward. So
I'm on zoning and conservation and soils there. There is some overlap. I mean, they're not giving ideas, they're doing reports on what the soils are.
Yep.
So I think they should be working together somewhat with that, because that office has a lot of information.
yep, and we always historically have worked together with land conservation. I mean,
Yeah.
we did a lot of programs together. And I do think, when Carolyn was on board, right, she was more livestock focused, so there wasn't as much interaction with that office as before. But we definitely are gonna, there's always been a really good working relationship with Kathy's office and the extension office.
That's
Especially when it comes, because they do a lot of cost share regulatory type things. We had the education piece so we could add to that. So it was always a really nice partnership.
I know that I just think that it's popular, but it's awfully nice if they can move out to the campus and be near you.
I think there's space out there.
So too. Okay, so we're not gonna have any action on that until you bring forth that next thing. Now we know what to expect, sort of.
Yeah, but you guys are comfortable with me looking and pursuing avenues. I mean, I would just assume that,
Do we need a motion to pursue, or did anybody,
No.
I think we just wait and see. Any other questions about this, good for our community? I think there'd be a general consensus to pursue it. Is that what, do I have any negative feelings on that? Okay, great. All right, then update on the human development position, which,
it is posted.
Okay.
It closes on the 24th, I believe. So
October?
of October. So if you know anybody that would be a good fit for Chelsea's position, let them know that they can go to the UW Jobs webpage.
Can you
we-
send that posting to us?
We have it. Yep. I can send the posting out to you guys. It's also on our Facebook page. There should be some links on our internal or our
I
extension
think
site.
you should send it to the committee, so
Will
we'll
do.
see what it says. Yeah.
Yep. So, and then I know we put it in the shopping news and the Observer.
I
So
didn't see it in the shopping.
should be this week and next week. And
Oh.
then next week, I think we're having it in, right? Or should have been in, yeah. I can't remember exactly how it lines up, but we wanted the Observer to be the last hit just the week before the posting was due. So it was, we do it early. It seems like we don't get the same amount of impact on those postings as we do when it's close to the end of the hiring cycle. So, but it's also advertised nationally. So it's
Yeah, oh, yeah.
out in Indeed, LinkedIn, all those other
Right.
places. So hopefully we get a good candidate pool and we'll move from there.
So, we did hear something about the technology, or I did, that you want to share with the community what committee was happening?
So as far as I know, and just feel free to add in where you want to. I think you guys are pretty much done with what you need to do out on campus to get the office spaces areas connected together. Right now, we've been kind of shutting down for an hour or two at the end of the afternoon to go out to campus and start rearranging offices and those types of things. Once we get that settled, then we will have MIS move the couple of towers and install the phones. So hopefully, you know, we haven't set a hard, fast date of when the transition from Health and Human Services back to campus full-time will be, but we've been working on getting some stuff shuffled around so we can move in as soon as possible.
So are you still in need of a dumpster or something for all the stuff that's in offices?
We'll see what happens out there. Eric's been working with us pretty well, so.
Okay, because Carrie's online, and if you need, I don't know if you want to talk to her, say something about that?
No, actually, it's been a pretty good working relationship so far. I think figuring out what was left in the offices, what we can utilize, there may be I guess in a couple weeks, thing that gets sent out to the county departments if they want to come look at any filing cabinets, that kind of stuff from our department. That we
Okay,
move from East Hall and then we can
Right.
figure out where we go from there.
okay, great. Okay, any other questions about that? That's gonna be a nice thing, Mary.
Yeah.
So the human development position. So the way that the educator positions work in extension with the county is it's a partnership and we have a contract that we sign with this. So it's a state employee. However, the counties contribute $46,240, I think is what, 470, something like that, dollars for that educator. And since this will be an 80% position, county will obviously only 80% of that contracted fee. So the person itself will be located full-time in Richland County for this particular position. However, there'll be a state employee. So it's kind of our supervision. For the ag position, not the human development.
Human development is just here. Yeah, the extension has always been a state employee paid for by the federal government, state government, and the county government. There's a that's why it's called cooperative extension in some way, because the three entities pay for extension. Yeah,
So for example,
but I think one of the questions was, who's on the hiring committee? I think she wanted to know if we have any say in that.
so typically the way the hiring works, I am the quote unquote hiring authority for the position. So when I do screenings of the applicants, I will involve myself, the program managers, the people that program statewide in that area. And then I usually have one active county educator who's also in that area. So we'll do the screening and we do the preliminary, and then I usually invite county board members to the final interview. So there's some input. So the last interview, the final interview will be a member or two from this committee will be on the hiring process. So I do take input from the county when we do the hiring.
Okay, good. Any other questions on that? All right. Everybody look over the invoices? Anything you want to specify?
No, unfortunately, I don't know if there's really anything to approve. I did sign off on them last week and sent them through
Right.
while I was up here.
I
So,
think we have to vote to approve them. even
so
though
those were the
It's always
invoices
been
we
that
had.
way.
Yeah.
So Chad moves to approve and Ingrid seconds. All in favor signify by saying aye. Okay, anything else, Adam?
No, that should do it for extension.
All right, so Carrie, you're on here, and I wish that Candace was here. Discussion possible action on UW Richland invoices and oversight. Presently, legally, they're supposed to come through this committee. And yet I know that there was some sort of a vote at the reconfiguration committee, which is not a legal committee to have made that vote. Should have been a standing committee in my mind to change what happens through the education committee, which is a standing committee. So it's a little bit to me messy about what that is, but they did vote at rules and regulations to move some of what we normally would oversee with the campus. So I think that includes the invoices. Carrie, are you sending the invoices directly to the reconfiguration?
We just didn't have any this
committee?
last month. When we skipped one in September, it just went straight to the county so that they could get paid. But we didn't have
Yes.
anything to put through this month, so I would just continue to send them to the county and you all. I have nothing to do with that decision, right? That's your
I
county's
am-
determination. So I
Right.
just keep sending them and you tell me where to go.
I think you should make contact with us in November yet, for sure, because that has to go through county board to make a major change to the education committee, unless somebody here knows more about that than I do. Yeah, so we should keep in contact on that. Is everything else going, we have a level of learning last year coming up and other things happening at the campus?
There's not much happening at the campus right now.
Okay. Any questions you have for us, Carrie?
Not this time.
Okay. I realize I made it, well, to do it in public comments. All right, any other questions about the campus? We'll wait and see what happens at county board on Tuesday night next week. And then we'll go from there. On public comments, yes,
Just for a quick clarification for the minutes, so the campus oversight will be going through a different
the
committee.
campus oversight is in a process of going through a different committee. That's what I would write in the minutes. And we're waiting to see what the county board will do about that.
Thank you.
I realize I made a mistake. Mary is a new member of the county board, and I think everybody knows Mary Miller here, but do you know everybody's name here? Okay, you know Ingrid and Chad and Adam. Carrie Keller is overseeing with, from UW Platteville with the campus. So, and you obviously, Greg, met Sheena this morning. And that way. Okay, anybody else? I'm sorry I didn't start the meeting that way. All right. Okay, do anybody have any items for November 13th? We definitely want to be following up on these positions. Anything else? All right, we'll still be meeting November 13th. We did talk about at rules and regulations that extension will stay here. And that maybe in the spring, I think they're figuring out all different types of committee things. I'm not sure, I'm not on those committees, but. And we're reviewing our reorganization, what we did 2 years ago, so we'll see where everything is housed. Okay, do I have a motion to adjourn the meeting? Barb Boyce motions to adjourn. Do I have a second? Chad Cosgrove seconds this. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Okay, opposed? Okay, thank you, everybody, for coming. Thank you, Mary. Hopefully you're not too late.